when we return.
Welcome to the Devy Devotional Podcast, a show devoted to college prospect evaluation with a fantasy football focus. With your hosts, John Arrington, Aaron Wilcox, and Andy Starr. This podcast brings you actionable strategies and player-driven analysis for your Devy, C2C, and Dynasty leagues. Let's dive in.
Let's dive into DLF. That's it. We finally get to talk about the big news. That's right. The Devy Devotional is moving over to DLF. We are a partner podcast, the official Devy podcast of DynastyLeagueFootball.com. It's been a long time coming, a lot of working in the background and a lot of people helping out. So we appreciate all that. But it did take a little longer than maybe we hoped, but we're here now. That's all that matters. And we're hoping to be reaching a new audience, putting out our best selves, putting out the best pods that we possibly can, and obviously working along with DLF to do that. So it's great to be partnered with such a fantastic website, a well-respected website, and one that I've been writing for years now, and obviously have a lot of experience with. We're looking to work with Ryan and the boys over on the DLF Dynasty podcast and everything as well. So this is going to be a lot of fun, a lot in the works, but we are finally excited to be able to talk about it, because like I said, we didn't know exactly when everything was going to be done. So it was like, well, do we want to focus on this now? Do we want to mention it now? No, we're going to wait until it's actually done. Well, now we can finally do it. We will be in your ears on a new stream. We have to make sure everyone is set up with the new feed. I don't know exactly how it works. If you're gonna hear us on your old feed, if you're gonna have to find us on a new feed, we're gonna make sure that we put all that kind of stuff out there. People will have access to any links or anything like that. I guess I'll figure all that kind of stuff out tomorrow. I'm kind of new to all of this, so we'll figure it all tomorrow. But hopefully, you guys will be hearing this and a lot of new people welcome in. Hopefully you will enjoy this. Give us a chance. Give us an episode or two and find out if you like it or not. Hopefully you will. Obviously, it's not just me. I'm your host, John Arrington, Dynasty Coach A, but I'm also joined by Aaron Wilcox and Andy Starr. They will be the ones keeping me down, controlling me when I'm going off on tangents and doing all that kind of stuff. How are you doing tonight, boys?
I'm doing well. We had a great Father's Day weekend. Just got back camping for like 4 days, so just finally got home, just sitting down, and what better to do than talk some college football, and yes, exciting news with DLF, and it has been a long time coming, a long process, but it's a good thing that we're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and everybody's really excited. I feel like with the arrangement moving forward, and it's going to be, good to get those extra ears, and hopefully we can help people along the way, especially when it comes to college football evaluation, because everyone's looking forward to the rookie draft, but it's even more fun to look forward to the next 3 or 4 rookie drafts, which is what we do.
Absolutely. Aaron, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well and just excited to be a part of the DLF team. Thanks to them for bringing us on, bringing us all together. It's been, 85 episodes so far of the Devy Devotional. So what John and I have started and Andy's joined with, we're making a great team and we're keeping this thing going. So excited to keep putting out some content.
And our best of friend Felix Sharp is in the chat and says congrats to Aaron and Andy. Of course, he actually sent me a long heartfelt letter earlier, so I mean that's why he didn't need to say my name there, because it was at least pages and pages earlier. So Felix loves me. I'm basically his favorite person in the Twitter world. So yeah, we love you, buddy. But yes, whether you're new, whether you've been listening for years, however you've come to find us, we are here. We are here to talk Devy. We recently started playing a game called Guess the Guy. That's what we're gonna do in here in just a second. Playing with Andy. Hopefully, I can stump Andy so I can jump into the lead. Hopefully, that'll be the goal there. And then we'll dive into a little more actual actionable talk and stuff like Debbie talk here in a little bit. But Andy, are you about ready?
I don't think I'll ever be ready for Guess the Guy, but I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Let's just put it like that.
All
Yes,
right.
and
Well,
for
then you
those
know
who
what
have
time it
not
is.
been,
Oh, go ahead,
sorry
Aaron.
about that. Sorry about that. I just wanted to jump in because there's probably quite a few new listeners actually tuning into this episode, and they want to know a little bit about like what is this Guess the Guy game. Well, so far we've had 3 different episodes featuring this game, and we're going to be giving some clues to one of our podcast co-hosts and seeing if they can eventually guess the player that we're giving them some clues for. So you'll have to listen to see some of the clues that we give, starting with the position of the player. And so we're having a scoring system that we will keep track of. And at the end of the summer, we'll reveal who has the most points, who won for the summer amongst our team here, as far as guessing the guy, the college prospect that is. And for anybody who has not listened to a Devy podcast before, we talk about college prospects, their translation to the NFL level, their college production, some of their skill sets, and also specific to campus to Canton leagues or college to Canton, the college fantasy side of things as well. So we have a pretty wide variety of topics that we discuss, including some NFL dynasty player values as well. So the Devy is seems like a niche topic, but it's definitely applicable for anybody who appreciates rookie analysis or wanting to get ahead on college prospects.
Yeah, this might be the perfect episode for people to join us for the first time because that's what we're actually talking about tonight is going to be cornerstone rankings, cornerstone values, and by cornerstone we're talking about how are we ranking these college Devy players in with the NFL players, and we're going to do a little twist. We're going to do a mock draft and then kind of try to figure out the values from there. But we do actually discuss dynasty values, and if you're thinking about the cornerstone, well, why do I care what the 103 in your mock draft is valued right now? Well, guess what, that's your future 103 that you're thinking about trading for or whatever it might be, and so that's why it's important to you. So we really do try to encapsulate everything and really go after all of these after all of these areas of expertise, whether it's college, Devy, C2C, NFL, all that kind of good stuff. But thank you, Aaron. That was probably a good choice to discuss why we're doing Guess the Guy, what exactly Guess the Guy is. Um, Hopefully, we'll actually remember to talk about the guy that we do guess this time because we did not do that again with Jade Knott. But you know what? We've discussed Jade Knott in the past, so we'll go ahead and skip that one. Why don't we go ahead and get into Guess the Guy? Let's guess the guy. All right, Andy. Here we go. First clue. Or do you want to try before I give you any clue, or no?
Can I do that? Is that worth like 7 points if I just
I
nail
think
it without anything?
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
All right. Garrett Nussmeyer.
Good guess, but it's not. He is a wide receiver.
Okay. All right. All right. Wide receiver. Let's go Michigan State. Nick Marsh.
All right, good guess. Like topical because we just saw him drafted in that Twitter Devy mock that we're doing right now. So I understand why he's
Yes.
on your brain.
He's on my
It
mind.
is not Nick Marsh.
Okay. So what do we got next?
He had a 23% receiving market share in 2024.
Let's see. 23%. Not bad. I'm gonna guess Chase. No, it's not gonna be Chase Soul. He'd probably more than that. Uh See, like this is the problem. I just get lost in all these names and then I can't think of anybody at all, which is like the worst thing. But uh
See, I
Elijah
thought it might
Surratt?
get. Who's that? Elijah Surratt?
Yeah.
No, It is not Surratt. I thought I might actually be kind of giving it away because there's probably not that many wide receivers that even had a 23% receiving market share last year. Like that's how unproven the Devy realm is right now. But yeah, I was like, I'm a little scared with that one. But
Okay, well that helps me a little.
yep, he is heading into his. You know what? Actually, I need to double check this one. I did this one on the fly, and I don't know if I actually updated this or not. So let me
Uh-oh.
check because I think I'm wrong here. I chose one player, and then I decided to change my mind at the last minute because I thought it was too mean, and so I'm changing my mind, or I'm just double checking here real quick, and yeah, I had it wrong. Okay, so he is actually heading into his sophomore season in
So
college.
true freshman last year, 23% market share. Oh man. I mean, it couldn't be like, is it Ryan Williams?
It was not Ryan Williams, but I like where your head's at.
Okay.
All right. He does play in the SEC, but he did not last year.
Oh, you're just giving away all sorts of free stuff right now. All right. Does play in the SEC,
Well, he
but
will
did
play
not
in the
last.
SEC this year, but he
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not last year.
And he's a true freshman, so he's coming from G5 probably.
Ooh, Andy got an extra hint there too
True
about where he
sophomore.
played.
I know I did. I feel like now I definitely am never gonna get this guy. Uh, Eric Rivers is going to Georgia Tech, so that's not right. Um, Playing in the SEC.
I think I
I'm gonna.
think you might have overthought this one by jumping into your train of thought that you went to. I'll give you a slight little hint there, but
Okay. Well, I don't think. I'm just gonna throw out like Casey Concepcion. I don't know. It's not right. I know.
it's not right. Not a bad guess though.
Well,
He
yeah, he's
is
gonna be
on the Texas Longhorns.
Texas Longhorns. Is it Ryan Wingo? No, he played in the SEC. It's not,
Uh, yeah,
right?
Wingo was already on the team, so we can't count
Yeah.
that one. So I'll give you another. I'll give you another guess there.
Well, I don't think I'm gonna get this one. 23%. It's not Ryan Wingo.
You're gonna hate yourself. I know that much.
Phone a friend.
Uh,
Yeah.
did he just transfer to Texas? It must have been recent. Was this like a spring transfer? Uh, who
I
else
don't
is
think I
there?
can answer
DeAndre
that.
Moore? It's not him. I'm not gonna get it. I don't think I'm gonna get a zero. All right.
No. All right, and it rhymes with Bemet Schmosley.
Oh, he did. All right. Emmett Mosley. I forgot that he went to Texas.
I
That
as
from
I say, you're gonna
Stanford.
hate yourself when
Yeah.
when you're done with this.
Oh my God. Yeah. From if you would have told me Stanford, I would have got it. But of course, I knew that he transferred once everybody got fired by Andrew Luck. But I didn't realize he went to Texas. That's me
That's what
being behind the eight ball. But Emmett Mosley, yeah, a good freshman receiver from Stanford. Big couple last few games of the year last year.
I'm just glad I didn't mess up the the hints here because I originally had a different player and must have forgot to change it and I went to start saying he's heading into his third year of college and I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right. And so I did. That's why I did double check.
Interesting. Yeah, Emmett
Uh,
Mosley.
Yeah, Emmett Mosley's kind of an interesting guy. I mean, I understand the underwhelming counting stats and even efficiency within that Stanford offense last season. But now Emmett Mosley heading over to a much higher octane offense there at Texas, not really a clear number one on the roster within that receiving core least as of right now, Emmett Mosley potentially stepping in as that safety valve and target for Arch Manning. I mean, that's pretty exciting. I have him in my top 20 Devy wide receivers at this time. He's definitely moved up with that move. And that is pre freshman, but I still think he's going to hang on within that top 20, even when I rank in all of the incoming freshman players. So I think there's definitely some upside. It's an intriguing selection that John had for this game, and kind of excited for his season, though. I don't know if he's ever going to be an immense upside type of NFL prospect. I will say that. Like, I do think his ceiling's a bit capped, Emmett Mosley's, but I still think he could have a very nice season there at Texas.
Santiago has been screaming Emmett Mosley for minutes now. So apparently we need to get Santiago on here. Sorry, Andy, you've been replaced. It was
Listen,
a fun
I'm
ride while it
I'm on the
lasted.
record as saying like I cannot play guess the guy. So the fact that I even get it on the rhyming is incredible. But I
I'm just glad that it was you that got that had to get to the rhyming one first, because I feel like we're all gonna do it. We're all gonna have that one that just completely
yeah,
stumps us.
I'll
And so
take
I'm
that
just
for
glad that
sure.
it was you first and not me, because I really thought it was gonna be me last week, and I was so happy when I got it right. Honestly, not that with all of that I had, not that I would have guessed Taylor Tatum, but I was just glad that I already had Tatum out of the way. So then when you said Oklahoma, it was a pretty easy answer at that point.
Crazy that Emmett Mosley had like 500 yards, and that's a 23% market share for the entire receiving yards for
Oh,
a
that's how
team. But
bad. That's how bad it was. That's why people don't understand. Like Alec Iomanner is going to like burn faces, melt faces this year in the NFL. I just don't think people real. I don't think people realize how good he is, how good Emmett Mosley could be, and how poor that QB play was. I mean, just unbelievably bad, and by a player that a lot of Ashton Daniels, a player that a lot of people were excited about, and just completely fell flat on his face. Yeah, I'm with. I'm not quite as high on Mosley as Aaron. I have him at wide receiver 30, or actually 29 before freshman. So, I'm a little bit further back, but he could easily jump up. I mean, we know we're all excited about Texas. We're excited about Arch. We can't say that there's a true number one there yet. It's like anyone that's guaranteed to take over or do anything like that. So, I think we're excited about the pieces at Texas, but he could easily be the number one, or at least the number two guy there when it's all said and done. So I think it was an interesting player. Unfortunately, we did not get a bunch of points for Andy, but he does get one. So he is now sitting at 3, tied with Aaron, although I believe that Aaron will go next week, and he will probably have more points at that point.
I'm gonna have to make it tricky now. Level the
Yep.
playing field.
Now we were talking about how nice we were going to be earlier. Now we're not so much, guys. But enough about guess the guy. Why don't we dive in to our Debbie mock? Alrighty, so getting into the nitty gritty here, we're going to do a 1 round Debbie mock with the twist. Like I said, we're going to discuss the player values as we or as we draft them, and where we would consider them valued properly in the NFL. Talk about a couple NFL players there that we think are at least right around that range. Once again, trying to help people understand where you might, at least in this moment, where you might be considering some of these picks that you might be thinking about trading for, trading away, all that kind of good stuff. So we honestly did not even discuss who was going to draft first or anything. It's just a 1 round mock. I don't think it truly matters, but Aaron, you are in the lead in Guess the Guy as far as most points in round one. So we will give you the 101. And then, Andy, do you have a preference?
No, not between 102 and 103. But if you'd like, I'll do 102
All
because
right,
if
sounds
if
good.
I'm at 103, then my pick is easy. But 102, I got a little bit of a decision at least.
Okay. And then I'll take the 103. Aaron, you are on the clock.
All right, thank you very much. I will select at the 101 in this Devy mock. Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State wide receiver. At this time, I mean, he is a second year player, really broke out big time after being just a stud recruit going to Ohio State. We know what Ohio State does for wide receiver prospects. We know that he has just a ton of talent. I mean, he shined even with Emeka Egbuka, a very talented player in his own right, there last year at Ohio State. And despite, QB play being pretty average, right? It wasn't necessarily elite by any means. So, yeah, Jeremiah Smith is a true freshman showing out. Now he's going to be the absolute number one target in that offense. He just has it all. He has the size, he has the athleticism and nuance to his game, and that type of physical play that's just going to be awesome at the NFL level as well. So, there's a lot of high-end players that you could comp to Jeremiah Smith. I won't list all of them, but I mean, think of like high-end guys for sure. So I think that was a pretty easy decision on my end. There is some ambiguity right now in the Devy landscape, but at the top there, I think he's a very solid option. And as far as like players in the NFL that I would value him maybe either alongside of or kind of close, at least at the wide receiver position, you kind of have to start thinking like I would rather have a somewhat unproven player in a Jeremiah Smith rather than you kind of go down the list like Rashee Rice. I don't know. Give me Jeremiah Smith. Though I understand in Devy that's a little bit bold because people are like, oh, give me the production right away with Rashee Rice. But once you start getting down into the like Emeka Bukas, Jordan Addisons, Jameson Williams, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, I at least have to start considering such an elite prospect in a Jeremiah Smith. It's different in a C2C league where those guys are actually scoring for you on the college side, but in a strict Devy format, right around that like wide receiver 17 to like the mid 20s, that's when I start considering a guy like a Jeremiah Smith over those players. I'm not saying I would pick him over all of the players by any means there, but that's just kind of my mindset with it. I know on this podcast we typically skew on the side of like take the sure thing, take the already proven NFL wide receivers. We've talked about that in previous episodes. I'm curious if you guys disagree significantly with that or have any other thoughts.
I definitely don't disagree. I have no issues with him being the 101. Santiago says Jeremiah Smith is the easiest 101 in years since at least Trevor Lawrence. I definitely don't disagree. I mean, honestly, we're talking Superflex, and if we were talking about Arch coming out next year, I think you have an argument. But because we're assuming waiting another year, I think we can. I think we can sit there and nitpick, and we haven't seen as much of them and everything. So yeah, I'm fine with Jeremiah Smith there. I will say I'm actually willing to maybe move him up a little bit more than what you're even saying. And we're using KTC here, which I hate doing, but it's just an easy way to kind of figure out ish, like how people are feeling about these players. I don't necessarily love it, but it is an easy something to use. So we will. I'm sitting here looking at, it, and you were saying Rasheed Rice, like T. Higgins, players like that. But I'm looking like right above Rice is Tet McMillan. We love McMillan, we love Tet to death, but he's not proven anything, in the NFL. So could you say that would you possibly move Jeremiah Smith above him? And then we have a 28-year-old AJ Brown above him. I'm wondering, could we possibly move a Jeremiah Smith above him? And then we have Travis Hunter, who is probably not even going to be a full-time wide receiver, even though people want to believe he is. I'm looking at Garrett Wilson as wide receiver 13, and I'm wondering if I would. I'm definitely not putting Jeremiah Smith above Garrett Wilson, but I'm wondering if that's where I would cut my line off and say, like wide receiver 14. When it's all said and done, he's going to be like wide receiver 7, Jeremiah Smith is. But obviously we have a year to go here. So I'm just saying, I think wide receiver 14 is actually where I'm sitting and actually feeling pretty good. We know how people feel about him. Santiago just said the easiest 101 and God knows how long. And I think that deserves at least wide receiver 14 consideration there.
And I get that mindset for sure, but he has 2 years, just to be clear for all the listeners. I mean, you have to wait this season and the next one and hope that, nothing happens injury wise, but he is very safe, like you said.
Yeah, and that does play a big part of it, especially if we're talking Devy, because yes, it's 2 years, you're getting nothing, and you're also hoping nothing catastrophic happens, which we obviously never hope that happens. Usually does not happen, but there's always a chance. I First of all, I agree 100% with the pick, like everybody else. Like he is the clear 101. And I tend to lean more with John. Like let's juice him up a little bit. Yeah, I would take him over Rasheed Rice or T Higgins right now. Obviously, it depends on your team structure a little bit, but we're not trying to get into that. This is all in a vacuum. Um, but I look at that Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith, and Garrett Wilson block right there, and I feel like Jeremiah Smith is right there with them as far as like potential NFL value. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, if he's in their tier, but he's also 2 years away from the NFL, I'm gonna drop him below those guys. Um, so I would take him definitely. It's not definite because AJ Brown, he's still got stuff in the tank at 28. But Tet McMillan, I think everyone's pretty. We love Tet McMillan, but Jeremiah Smith is a far better prospect than Tet McMillan was, even after his freshman season when Tet McMillan had a pretty solid freshman year, albeit at Arizona. But I think I would if I had Tet McMillan right now. I would move him straight up for Jeremiah Smith in a Devy league. AJ Brown, like I said, it depends on where I'm at, but it'd be something that I would certainly consider. And Travis Hunter for sure. I'm moving for Jeremiah Smith without
I
question.
think the line's right there. I mean, we
Yeah.
can nitpick and say whatever, but I think the line is right there. It's right where you should be. Even with like you saying like I would send Tet for Jeremiah Smith. I'm like, oh man, like I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's kind of like almost even value. And usually with those kind of trades, I want like a kicker somewhere. Like throw me a third or like a throw in player or something like that. Like I don't want to make that kind of trade straight up anyway. So I don't know that I would necessarily even make that trade straight up, but I think that's right where that line should be. And I think we were all right within a couple picks there. So I think that's a pretty good value there for Jeremiah. And I don't know, maybe I confused myself when I was talking about Arch, but I definitely did mean 2 years, not 1 year for Jeremiah there. And it is a long wait. Unfortunately, we've seen crazier things happen, but even though we obviously don't expect anything too crazy to happen to Jeremiah there, Andy, you were on the clock at 102.
All right, this is where the super flex mindset kind of makes the decision for me because there's two guys that I think you could probably take right here, but I'm going to lean with the QB1 in this class, potentially next class, in Arch Manning at Texas. Um, yes, the question mark is can he run the SEC gambit for a full season and produce like we've seen in the few games that he has played so far. We hope to see it. There's no reason why we shouldn't see it. I know the weapons at Texas aren't what they were last year, but we just talked about Emmett Mosley, highly sought after transfer from Stanford. Ryan Wingo is going into year two. Everyone's potentially saying DeAndre Moore's got something to show us this year. I don't see that, but we'll see. Maybe if Arch Manning is truly what we think he's going to be, he's a guy that could support a lot of wide receivers there. So I'm taking him at 102. I think he's easily the best quarterback in college football right now. And where I'm looking at him as far as like in the quarterbacks in the NFL landscape right now, it starts to get a little bit in after QB 10, which according to Keep Trade Cut is CJ Stroud. It gets a little murky. You've got the Bo Nixes, Jordan Loves, Brock Purdy's, question marks with JJ McCarthy, Kyler Murray. He's very up and down, and then Cam Ward, who's obviously a rookie this season. We haven't seen anything from him. Same thing with JJ McCarthy. We've seen like some preseason out of him. So that puts him down in like the QB 15, 16. Um, am I going to put him ahead of a guy like Jordan Love at QB 12? Probably not, just because I know John's not going to like that because he's a certified Jordan Love hater. But at the end of the day, despite him throwing tons of interceptions, he does score fantasy football points, and he signed a massive contract with the Packers. So we are kind of stuck with him for the next couple of years at least. Um, but I feel like that's the range for me. Like, let's just say QB 15 plus or minus two or three, depending on how things go in the next season here for Arch. But it's really hard to say a quarterback in college is going to crack like a top 12 QB list because it's tough to do. Even if you're
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, who is sitting all the way down there at like, you know, QB 18. He's a guy that everyone thought was a can't miss prospect as well, and we're seeing him as kind of a middle of the pack guy. So you got to be very cautious with college quarterbacks, and that's what I'm trying to do. But also being a little cautiously optimistic with Arch because we do like him.
Yeah, it's definitely more difficult with the QB position. Like you said, I mean, look at people were putting Caleb Williams at like QB 6 last year, and we obviously saw how that worked out, and he hasn't fallen too much, at least according to KTC. But we can't expect too many great things from rookie quarterbacks, and we also know that a lot of times they go into bad situations. Like even if you still believe in Bryce Young. Look at the situation he went into, and now going into year 3, now we can say, hey, maybe he has some players around him where he can go showcase it and blah blah blah. But how much value has he lost and everything? So I'm with you there. Santiago asks, how is Manning the best QB when we basically watched nothing from him against good competition? Where does the evaluation come from? At least in my opinion, we seen him step in for Quinn Ewers when Ewers was hurt, when Ewers was benched, and every single time he looked 1,000 times better than Quinn Ewers. Now Quinn Ewers ended up not getting drafted well. That might not be saying as much as it used to be, but people used to hold Ewers to a very high standard, a very high regard, and so it was like, well, he actually looks better when he's on the field, on the same field with the same players and everything else than yours does. That's always been my evaluation. But then, when you look at the numbers, yes, it might be against easier competition. That's almost, we can say that about almost any small sample player, whether it was Garrett Nussmeier before last year or whoever it might be. It's always going to be against easier competition because it's always the end of the game when you're destroying the team by 50 or whatever it is. So we can say, what have they done even if it's against easier competition? Arch is pushing the ball down the field, he's making big time throws, and he's using his legs. That's what we want for fantasy football, at the very least. So I think, of course, he is not a done deal, he is not a guarantee, but looking at the QB situation in Devy right now, there's literally not one guy who is a guarantee, who is a lock for anything. They all have question marks. Drew Alar, Garrett Nussmeier, uh, Cade Klubnik. Literally every single one has some kind of question mark. And all we're saying with Arch is we haven't truly seen it yet, but everything we have seen has been really good.
Yeah, definitely a projection with Arch, but I mean, there's a lot going for him. Former 5 star, comes from the Manning family, but he has a lot more mobility, so he matches the current NFL game, and definitely still the arm talent and within the system. I mean, this system is going to throw the ball. They're going to have a good offensive supportive system and coaching staff, so good players. I Yeah, I'm optimistic, but it is a risk. But that's just the Devy landscape right now, so no qualms with Andy going there. So as far as where I'd slot Arch in, though, I'm not quite as aggressive into those NFL rankings. I'm still taking some of those quote unquote more sure bets. Like I still want like a Kyler Murray at 15. I still want like a Brock Purdy at 13, even a Baker at QB 17 or a T-Law. I want that production, that little bit of safety there because those should be locked in starters here for years on the NFL side, and still some potential upside. I mean, they're building around Trevor Lawrence. Baker Mayfield's had a great resurgence. He's only 30 years old. You have Kyler Murray. He's like only 27. So I'm more likely to slot Arch Manning in like when you're getting into like the 1920, like Bryce Young, Michael Penix, or even further down into like the darts fields to those types of guys. So a little bit different on how aggressive I am with him, but I still like him quite a bit. Yes.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one just because I was saying how I don't love KTC to begin with. Well, I was okay with their wide receiver ranks. I completely hate their QB ranks, and so I'm like, well, I would have them over this guy, but I would have them below this guy, and that guy's 4 picks ahead, and so I'm just gonna say I think I side with Aaron more here. You know, like when you get to your Michael Penix, your Bryce, your Dak, like guys like that is where I'm like truly feeling more confident. But like I would have him above Cam Ward, but then they have Cam Ward above Baker Mayfield, which I don't have. So I like that I can't say I have him above that. But I think you're right around that line, QB 17, 18, something around there is where I'd have. And this is another one where we're probably waiting 2 years to see him, at least according to most people. So it's a long wait, especially if you're trading guys like this. So you want to, like, I really have no issues with trading Michael Penix. I don't think he's ever going to become something special, and I actually do think there's a chance. Maybe a small chance, but like I do think there's a chance that he actually loses that job back to Kirk Cousins at some point if he's not traded away. And so like I have no issues waiting 2 years if I'm getting a player that I don't believe in off my team. But like a guy like Baker Mayfield, a guy like Cam Ward, you just got him. I can't say that I truly believe in Ward, but at the same time, he's in a decent situation there in Tennessee now. So I think it's got to be right around that line.
I think that brings us to 103 with you, John.
All right. Well, I've been yapping this entire time and not really thinking about uh, my picks or anything like that. I'll tell you what, I didn't think that 103 was going to be that big of a deal, but I kind of hate this pick because I want to pick. Well, actually, I think it's gonna be pretty easy. Actually, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna take Ryan Williams. He's just too good. I'd say he is in probably one of the worst situations that we've seen like a high end wide receiver be in recently, and I guess that's difficult to say with Alabama. But I mean, just looking at Jalen Milroe, seeing Jalen Milroe throw live at the Senior Bowl really opened my eyes to just how bad of a quarterback he is. Like, it really is, and I hate to be mean about the guy. Like, I'm sure he's a great guy, and he's obviously athletic as hell. But the guy cannot complete a normal intermediate throw if his life depended on it. It's just not possible. He has a beautiful deep ball. I will give him that, but that only gets you so far. So I just wonder if we can actually get a decent quarterback, which I guess now we're getting Ty Simpson hype. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Austin Mack is completely unproven. Hopefully we can see Keelan Russell at some point. I don't know if that's going to happen this year or next or whenever, but I feel like if we can get Keelan Russell out there doing what he can do, and then in Ryan Williams' third year, I think we can actually see a big jump from him, and he'll be worth this 103 when it's all said and done. That being said, as far as like the actual players and the wide receivers, I think we got to drop down quite a bit here because you're definitely getting more into the unproven territory. I do truly believe in the player, and it's actually kind of unbelievable what he's done as a 17-year-old player. Now he's going to be 18 in his second year, transferring up or reclassifying up a year and everything. It's kind of unbelievable, but we just need to see more from him, from the team, from everyone. I'm looking at, man, I hate these ranks so much, but I'm looking at like an area like Matthew Golden, Chris Olave, and then for some reason DJ Moore is all the way down here, which DJ Moore should never be at wide receiver 31. That's just ridiculous, guys. Come on. But I'm going to skip DJ Moore here. So Matthew Golden, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall, Luther Burden. I would take Ryan Williams over all of those guys, not named DJ Moore. Above that is Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf. Like, are you guys okay with that kind of range?
I like the range. Yeah, I definitely like that slot that you were picking. That's where I was eyeing up where I would put in Ryan Williams. Though I agree with you. I mean, I think DJ Moore, like even Olave, I'm probably still taking over him. But yeah, Matthew Golden, no. You give me Ryan Williams. Same thing when you start going down the list to, the Luther Burdens, Jerry Judy's. I still like Ayuk, but, you get down the list. Yeah, it makes sense to slot him in around that 30, 32, 33 mark. And I will say I'm more optimistic about that Alabama passing game and that system just because of the coaching staff there. I have trust that they will be able to select a guy who's at least competent at the quarterback position. And we see how it didn't necessarily tank a guy like an Emeka Buka, or like a Tet McMillan. I mean, what he was dealing with there at Arizona with Noah Fafita was not anything special by any means. But those guys are going to ball out as long as it's not like as terrible as maybe what Alec Ayamonor dealt with there at Stanford last season, which I don't think it will be at Alabama. Yeah, I think he'll be just fine. So Ryan Williams, yeah, pretty excited for him. Nice pick there.
Yeah, that was who I was, kind of toiling with at potentially taking 102 as well. And it's, right when you said Matthew Golden, Chris Olave, right in that range, that was right where my eyes fell too. Like I saw Jalen Waddle, I saw Terry McLaurin, I was like, that's, we're getting on the cusp of where I'd feel comfortable right now. And then right below those guys was Matthew Golden. So I think I'm in lockstep with everything you just did right there.
All right, I like it. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like McLaurin's gonna be 30 here in like a month or two, and he's holding out, and he had a really high touchdown rate and everything. I'm thinking that's kind of the line. That wide receiver 28 ish is definitely the line I'm thinking of. But we'll probably need to speed things up a little bit once we get into 104. But right now, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. The Devy Devotional podcast is brought to you by Fast Draft, the fastest best ball game on the planet. New to Fast Draft? Use promo code DEVOTIONAL to earn up to a $50 deposit match. Sign up now and start drafting faster. All right, like I said, we're going to pick it up a little bit faster here, and we're going to do some fast drafting. 104, Aaron, what you got?
Ooh, I'm going at 104. We're not snaking this thing, huh? Ooh, okay.
At this point, we'll just do three in a row. It'll be all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it makes sense. No worries there. So, as far as the next guy that I'm going to take, I think he's a running back who has very, very high end upside as far as an athlete. This school puts out amazing testing numbers from their running backs and athletes just in general. And this guy has proven enough as a receiving threat. And I think he's got steadily better and more comfortable as a rusher, and that's Nicholas Singleton, Penn State running back. I'm going to select him next. I had a couple other guys I considered here, to be honest. It wasn't a clear selection by any means, but put me on the spot there. I am happy to have a potential workhorse running back who has the size, athleticism to be like a Saquon Barkley. Again, that's a lazy comp. They don't play the same way, but they are very high caliber athletes at a great size who have some receiving ability. Nick Singleton, Penn State running back. Super excited about him. Let me quickly bring up some running backs that I might consider over or him over. But any thoughts, I guess, on him really quick?
Yeah, I mean, he's my RB1 in the class, whether right or wrong. I don't know that he's truly even done enough to be the RB1 in the class, but I guess no one truly has either. No one's like truly stood out as that like main guy. We don't have a Trevion yet. We definitely don't have a Genti yet or anything like that. So I think I'm perfectly fine with the pick here, and the only thing I'll say is that he's so athletic that he's going to crush the combine. That even if he were to fall off a little bit this year, I feel like he'll have a resurgence once we actually get to the NFL combine, and he'll still be a top 3 RB regardless of how this year goes.
Sure. And I would say that as far as where I slot him in, once you get through like the running back rankings in Dynasty are kind of gross. I mean, he's not within the top 10 by any means, but like once you start getting after like the Brees Hall, Quinshawn Judkins, Jonathan Taylor, go down the list, like even like some of these other guys, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, that's kind of gross there. Chase Brown, like they're kind of 1 year propositions. Kenneth Walker, Christian McCaffrey, Caleb Johnson. I think right after there, I would feel much more comfortable putting in Nick Singleton. So right around like RB 18 to like 20 range, because I'd probably like RJ Harvey, yeah, I trust the talent in Nick Singleton more. Same with like a James Cook. There's some uncertainty there at Buffalo. Derrick Henry, hey, I love the guy. Kind of a 1 year rental at 31 years of age. I know he keeps defying father time, but it comes for all of us eventually, and it will for Henry, unfortunately, too. And then Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, like these guys are not attractive. Around that 20-ish or so range is where I'd have Nick Singleton.
Yeah, I like that range as well. I think it's right after Jacobs. Like that's where I have KW3 Kenneth Walker ahead of a couple of those guys, so I'm kind of taking him out. But when you're talking about Chase Brown, Caleb Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook, like those guys, I'm fine taking Singleton over them, or at least like saying that they should be very similar in value. So I think that's definitely the line for me is like right after Jacobs. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, Quinshawn Judkins is a guy that if Nick Singleton decided to come out last year, I probably would have liked Singleton over Quinshawn Judkins. So I know Judkins is in a starting role right now, but I think if everything continues the way we think it will, Singleton will also be in a good situation next year at this time as well. But yes, you have to wait that 1 year to get there. So I think the range is spot on. So uh, Quinshawn's at RB10. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think anyone would move off of him right now for a guy in college. But yeah, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, they all just feel like this is their last chance to really solidify their sell. Well, Josh Jacobs in particular is kind of getting towards the end of his career in running back years. And then Chase Brown and Kenneth Walker, I feel like they've got people behind them that could be taking their role any second. So I like that range. I think Singleton is a guy that is probably going to be a highly rated running back next year, and after the rookie draft could easily be top 10. So if we're talking right now, I think running back 15 would be a fine spot to put him.
I like it. Who are you taking at 105?
Oh, at 105, I'm gonna go ahead and snipe John. I think, and
Uh-oh.
take another wide receiver off the board. And this is a guy I'm not gonna have to wait as long for, hopefully.
Oh man.
And that's gonna be Jordan Tyson, who had a
Ouch.
fantastic season last year uh, at Arizona State, and there's just not a lot of quarterbacks that I like at this range. There's another running back that I could probably take here, but after the season Jordan Tyson has had, and also what we saw from him as a freshman in Colorado, and he was completely absent in his sophomore year for an injury, so we don't know what would have happened then. So what we've seen so far has all been good from Jordan Tyson, and he's got solid quarterback play coming back with Sam Levitt. I think he's gonna, really do, if not the same, much better than he did last year. Which last year he was insane as from a yards per route run standpoint and from a market share standpoint. I think he's going to be a first round draft pick. And then when I start to look at the wide receiver rankings, I know we're moving down each time, obviously, because these picks are getting a little bit few and far, further away from the top of the draft. But I don't think the fall off is as much between uh, Jeremiah Smith and what Ryan Williams was, just because the wide receiver landscape starts to get a little murkier in the NFL once you start getting past like Brandon Ayuk and Mike Evans and Josh Downs. You see a few guys there like Tyreek Hill is probably maybe one or two good more seasons. It's hard to say. I mean, he's still fast as hell, but there's a lot of uh, rookies mixed in there too, with like Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris and uh, Luther Burden, who I think we would all probably agree is a little bit too high on this list. But maybe right there with like some of these veterans like Evans and Godwin, maybe like right in the middle there, like around wide receiver 39 ish. Is some place that I would consider Jordan Tyson, just because I do think he's going to be a first round pick, and that's going to bump him up quite a bit, and we don't have to wait very long to see it.
Yeah, I like it. I was looking right around that range. Honestly, I don't feel that differently about Tyson than I do about Williams, and so I'm kind of looking at that same range. I might even be a little. I mean, obviously Tyson's my baby, but I might even be looking a little bit higher with Tyson there, right around that like wide receiver 30, 31 range. Not that you were that much lower on him. But there's it's so weird with the KTC because there's still a couple of guys that's like, man, Ayuk and Godwin and Downs. Like I definitely do not hate these players. So it's kind of difficult to make that determination there. But I think definitely within that range, Tyson's going to be a stud. We just have to hope for health. That's really all we're hoping for at this point is that he's just 100% healthy and can make it through the season. And I think we will be all set. Aaron, are you okay with wide receiver 30 ish?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit lower, and not because I dislike him by any means, but I think there is a little bit of that injury upside or injury downside and risk to his profile. I don't think he's quite as safe of a prospect or quite as dominant, to be honest. So there's going to be some volatility there, but at the same time, so is there when you start getting into the 30s in these dynasty rankings. So I will say that, I don't agree by any means with the keep trade cut ranks. So I would definitely slide those guys in a different order, but I'm still taking guys like, Brandon Ayuk ahead. I'm trying to think down the list, like Josh Downs, Chris Godwin, some guys that you mentioned there too, Jaden Reed, Trey Harris. I'm taking all those guys right now ahead. But there are certainly some that I'd take Jordan Tyson over Jaden Higgins, that's for sure. Or like, Luther Burden, I think about that. Um, Matthew Golden, absolutely. So, yeah, there's that 30 to like 35, 38 range, like anywhere in there, you have to start thinking about Jordan Tyson because he's a very solid player, assuming that he comes back at full health.
I definitely agree. I love the player. All right, that puts me on the clock, and I mean, I'm between three players here, and I really don't know which one to go with. So I'm gonna throw us all for a loop here. I'm gonna go with the player that you least expected, and I might need to change my ranks because I definitely do not have it ranked this way. But I'm going with my gut here, and I'm drafting Lenore Sellers at 106. I I don't know that I truly believe in Lenore Sellers' talent. I do believe that he will be the biggest riser of the season, the biggest riser of the offseason going into next year, the biggest riser after the NFL Combine. We've seen terrible quarterbacks go to the Combine, Anthony Richardson, and then become 104 in the NFL draft, and then get a decently solid leash in the NFL. I don't know that like I said I truly believe Sellers is the guy that like I think is just going to completely win, but I do think that he showed flashes of being better than Anthony Richardson last year as a true sophomore, which is a lot more than we can say for Richardson and whatever he did in college. And now he's going to have a full junior season, assuming health and everything, to put everything all together and go take another step. We like some of the talent around. Aaron was talking about the tight ends, Nicholas Harbor as a wide receiver. We like the talent there this year. There's no like true excuses for why there would be a down year or a step back or anything like that. I think we'll have a very definitive answer when it's all said and done. Is he that guy or is he not? But and so like this is a risky pick. I'm not saying this is like I said this is not how I have it ranked, but I might reconsider here after talking it through. But I just think that there's a very easy chance that Lenore Sellers could be the 101 in the 2026 draft class. And we haven't been able to say that about most of these guys because they're not even in the draft class.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm definitely a Lenore Sellers detractor, just because it from what he has shown, it hasn't been NFL ready quarterback at this point. Um, he certainly could get there. When we did our episode about quarterbacks, we talked about him and all these other guys. It's like they all have portions of their game that are good, but they all needed to take like two or three steps and improve on two or three different things. And Lenore Sellers needs, to improve as a passer, his accuracy, that sort of thing. But yes, he's the most athletic quarterback that's going to be talked about over the next season. Um, and if with quarterbacks, it's tricky because when you've got a guy who's going to be starting this year for an NFL team and you're on your dynasty team, it's hard to move off of him for a guy that you really don't know, especially in sellers where we really don't know what's going to happen in 2025 as far as his performance, and is that going to transcend him into that first round draft capital. So for me, like if you're talking Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, I'm still keeping both of those guys above him in my rankings. But uh, and then this is where keep trade cut just really falls off the rails here. They got like Jalen Milroe over Matthew Stafford, which is crazy to me. But Jalen Milroe, I'm definitely probably would move off of Milroe for Lenore Sellers at this point. Matt Stafford, he's in the closer to 40 than he is 30 at this point. How many more years does he have left? And then Anthony Richardson is down there. And I would definitely move Anthony Richardson for Lenore Sellers. I would take whatever I could get for him at this point. And Tyler Shugg, I don't think anyone thinks he's going to be a long-term starter in the NFL. Maybe some people do. And then you got like Shador and Daniel Jones down there. So I feel like if we just forget Jalen Milroe's even in these rankings, uh, and then you got Matthew Stafford who would be there at like QB 28. Um, Maybe that's where I would consider saying, let's move off of Stafford now before he's just completely worthless, and maybe we'll get something in return here with Lenore Sellers. But beyond that, I think I'd probably hang on to Geno Smith and Sam Darnold because I feel like they still have 2 or 3 years of starting QB seasons in them that I know I can. They're not going to have any QB1 like performances, but maybe some weeks they do give you that. So that's something that does have some value.
Yeah, well said. And I don't really disagree with anything there. I mean, yes, you can nitpick with those rankings, right? But it's a keep trade cut issue versus our our end, I guess. So you're right around that 28 to like 30 range. You can definitely start slotting in, but there's just that much more uncertainty with the Lenora Sellers that you can't quite as confidently slot them into like the top 20, top 23, 24, etc. At least in my opinion.
I agree. I guess because I made the pick and I'm a little bit higher on him or willing to take the risk, I'll be a little riskier in my. I was looking at it originally before Andy even said anything, and I was looking at that Sam Darnold and Geno Smith range, and I'm like, you know what? I don't truly believe. Geno's 35 already. I don't know that he's ever going to become anything like truly special or anything like that. I think he's a solid game manager, and that is going to work well. He's never going to be anything special for fantasy football as far as moving up the board or anything. And I don't believe in Darnold as a long term option in dynasty. And so really it comes down to Tua because like I'm not putting him above Fields, which is what KTC has as QB 24. So really it comes down to Tua, and with Tua, like I would easily have Tua over Sellers, but I wonder about the value and everything. People hate Tua so much that like I feel like you could get Tua plus for Sellers. Like I feel like you could easily do that the way that people talk about Tua. So I think that's kind of the line right there. And Tua's sitting at QB 25, so I'm gonna say QB 25 ish for Lenore Sellers is where I would be valuing him right now. But I honestly, he obviously has the chance to jump up a lot higher than that very soon. And if he starts the season off like he finished the season, it's not going to take but a couple weeks before people start going, oh, 101, he's done. Like we don't need to talk about anything else anymore, and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of talking a lot, that's what we do. If you guys are new to the pod, you're going to realize that we don't just skim through things. We talk it all through, sometimes too much. And obviously give us, if we have new listeners, if we have old listeners, whoever, we always appreciate feedback. So, I mean, if you were like, hey, you guys talk too much, we'll skim things a little quicker next time or whatever. But this is what we do. We go off on tangents. We thought we were going to get through 12 picks here, but we're sitting at right around the hour mark, and we got through 6. So we're going to go ahead and cut it off here, and we will pick up where we left off next week. And I think that'll make for a solid 2 weeks of content there for everyone, and for everyone starting out as new listeners and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys appreciated this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, whether it was your first or your 85th time of listening into the Devy Devotional. We do appreciate you guys, and we're excited to be joined by DLF and hosted by DLF and everything. So we appreciate you guys. We appreciate DLF. Appreciate Andy and Aaron. Appreciate Andy getting that one today, so I don't have to feel as bad the next time I do guess the guy. But I think that's enough of that. So why don't we get out of here? See you guys.